lecturer at Academic City College and founder of the Institute of Leadership and Management in Education, as well as a columnist in the Business and Financial Times. Niyama Adi. Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Van der Palen.
Good to have you on the show.
Thank you very much.
Happy holiday, happy Founders Day, happy Nkrumah Day. Great leader, right?
Nkrumah is a great leader, no doubt about that. And to say that this day is really worth celebrating because, as it said, a nation which does not celebrate its leaders is not worthy dying for. So to celebrate Nkrumah, it's in the right direction, and I support the celebration, I support the holiday, and I ask that we all reflect into the leadership that Nkrumah brought to us right from the pre-colonial era, ushering us into independence until he took a bow from leadership of the country. And even then, when he had taken a bow from the leadership of the country for whatever reasons, he was held high in other countries. And so it's a great day. I support it, and it's worthy of all the celebration and attention given to it. But again, as leadership, Nkrumah did not do it alone. So usually when you talk about the leadership, you talk about the headship, so that all those who were together with Nkrumah also receives the same appellation, they receive the same accolades, and they receive the same celebration. It can always be one head, but many parts of the body, just as it is. So we're celebrating all leaders who have, in a way, helped in bringing Ghana to the peace that it has now.
Basically, the focus is on Nkrumah today because it's his day.
That's it. It's the head.
It's all about Dr. Nkrumah.
Okay.
So, an overview of leadership to start with, as we're dealing with leadership, very critical. Leadership is very critical when it comes to organizations and certainly putting resources together, putting people together to achieve a desired result. An overview of leadership. Good.
Leadership has generally been said to be the ability to influence a group towards the achievement of a goal. So in national leadership, you want to influence the citizenship in order to achieve a set goals of the country. Is it infrastructural development? Is it educational development? Is it health development? Whatever development it is, the ability to get the people to wake up, to rise up and say that, look, this is the goal that faces us as a country. And the leader who is able to command that influence, it's a leader. And then on organizational setup, again, every organization has a goal. So the ability for the leadership of the organization to get its employees or its people to achieve or work towards the achievement of that goal is a leader. So not all leaders are managers, or not all managers are leaders, because usually the word has been, if you like, confused. If you relate it to both national leadership and organizational leadership. National leadership, because we say that the president, if you like, is the CEO of the country. Therefore, he needs to do certain things, XYZ, in order to get a country going into a particular direction. Or in organizational leadership, you say the same thing. But, I mean, it's been said time and again, or it's been said by some scholars, that anytime you mention leadership, management should not be mentioned, because, and vice versa, because they think that a good manager should have the good leadership skills. But then there is a difference there. A good leader displays the ability, the creativity, and then the confidence. A manager, if you like, is the status quo. So the ability to get things done. So there are set goals, he gets it done. But getting that creativity, adding on, okay, having that confidence, having that ability to set aside things that really ought to be done in order to achieve the goals is what makes a good leader. And then he gets cooperation. As a good leader, he gets cooperation from his people. I mean, if you are a good leader and you have a vision that you're working towards, you have to get cooperation from the people, because you have to get them to buy into that leadership. And when they buy into that leadership, you get their cooperation. and then he has the willingness and builds the morale of the people. He's able to motivate them. So a leader shows up and he motivates the people. It's all about getting things done. It's all about achieving goals. It's all about getting the vision established. And that is what a leader is.
You know, as you talk about all these things, just thinking through, and I see them in my leader I work with here. Brilliant, man.
Good.
So these are wonderful characteristics and features to look at, basically. So an overview of leadership, that's what it is, and you've been able to separate the two. So being a manager is not enough.
It's not enough. You have to go a step further to have that leadership skills, because being the manager means that a set of things can be drawn out for you. I mean, if you take it on the national basis and the discussions, if you like, as being the formation of the National Development Planning Committee, what we call it, and they are to set down a certain agenda, that be it in a president that takes the seat, the nation follows a certain developmental path. That is good. So that is management. Okay, because the things have been set already. But a leader is the one who is able to rise beyond what is being said, to say that, look, this is the vision. We've set this down. We are not setting it aside, but we can go beyond that to do those critical things that addresses the critical situation of the country at a particular point. Strategic thinking. So the leader goes beyond the manager. Yeah.
Now let's look at perhaps ideas around the leadership. You can call it theories. System of ideas that we find. We can play on.
Yes. Usually, when you talk about leadership, you talk about the theories of leadership, and the theories of leadership, if you like, has evolved in the 1900s. Okay, when democracy, if you like, took strong position or the center stage in the history of America. So in the 1900s, they call it the great man theories. Okay, and they say that it is an innate ability, and the question was then posed: who is born to lead? Okay, who is born to lead? If you bring that in the psychological perspective, we have what we call nature-nurture argument. And the nature-nurture argument has raged among scholars for a long time now, where the nature, relating it to the great man's theories as who is born to lead in the 1900s, says that we are influenced as a result of our environment. That is nature. And then there is also the argument which says that we are influenced by an innate ability, which means that you are born with it. But be that as it may, the argument tends to tilt towards the nature, which is the environment, so that we are as a result of an environment. So when people say that leaders are born, in the innate ability, that has only a small fraction, which is born, the nature.
It's an inherent.
Yes, it has only a small ability. Because if you study the lives of great leaders, you see that ordinary people do extraordinary things. So you look at their environment, where they've come from. You see that they have not come from great places. I mean, if you take somebody like Sir Winston Spencer Leonard Churchill of the Great Britain, I mean, this is somebody who did not have great education. I mean, if you look at the background of Barack Obama today, it's somebody who did not grow from a very affluent family. And even if you look at our own Nkrumah, who we are celebrating today, did not come out of that big family. Very humble, very ordinary people. But they rose up to do extraordinary things. So that in those arguments, you say that the leader is born, or the innate thing is there. Okay. But of course, they got themselves into the society. They were not secluded from the society. That's where the nurture comes in.
So they developed it.
They developed it. So these theories, the question was posed in the 1900s. And then down to the 20th centuries, which is between the 1940s into the 50s, then we saw the trait theory. And then the trait theory is what universal traits are common to all leaders. Okay, what universal traits are common to all leaders? So and usually you see that is the ability to achieve, the ability to greatness, the ability to get things done. And then it developed further in the 50s to the 60s, where we saw the behavioral or the behavior theory. And the behavior theory is what behavior patterns results in leadership. Okay, so that if you follow this trajectory from the 1900s to the 60s and to where we are now, you see the trait theory, the behavioral theory, and then in recent times the transactional leadership theory was developed, where from the word transaction, where the leader is entrusted with certain responsibilities and is able to transact that responsibility successfully. And then we also saw the transformational leadership, which is also referred to as, if you like, charismatic leadership. Okay, and the transformational leadership or the charismatic leadership, the ability to transform things from what it is. So they are the star, they are the superstar, they are the Midas touch, so that whatever it takes is able to bring a transformation to it. And then we have the laissez-faire leadership, and that one, it fails to provide regular feedback. So usually that kind of leadership is not taken. And then when you look at, again, another leadership which we've seen predominantly in Africa, which I'm sure we'll get into that discussion, is what they call the autocratic leadership, where he says that I have to do this and that ought to be done in a way. And I'm sure when we go into the discussion, maybe we'll see that.
We'll come to that one. But from all these examples you've given, or theories you've given, some of them are a graduation from one point to the other. I mean, the first one, the foundational, which I see there, is the innate.
The innate, yeah.
Innate family, which is, innate
ability.
Or, leadership skill, which is inherent. People are born with it. And then you mentioned the one that has to do with people's ability to work with what they have, and all of these things. And it tells us that it's a development, it's a process.
Definitely.
So, talking about the process that exists, are you impressed with the level at which people take their time to go through these processes for maturity, or you see people rushing through it and thereby not being able to deliver the way they are?
Okay, good. It depends on the strategy. You mentioned strategic leadership earlier on in our conversation. Thinking, yes, strategic leadership, strategic thinking. It depends on the strategy that the person is putting in place. It brings us to the same nature argument that develops leadership. Okay, some have seen it, they've lived in it, they've seen it done several times, so it's easy to jump onto it and to do it. But a gradual, systematic, step-by-step approach to that development is what makes great leaders. And you see that in many families. In many families, I mean, if you take organizational leadership, like a great example we can cite in Ghana is the Mechanical Lloyd. It's an organization that has succeeded through different generations in the family line. I mean, if you take political leadership, I mean, you take Nkrumah, yes, his children are there and they are doing something. And in recent times, if you take the Rawlinses, you see that stage is also going there. So yes, it's the nurture thing. They've seen it done and they live in it. Okay, but you can always tell, yes, you can always tell by the end result. Again, if you go to America, you see it with the Kennedy family, you see it with the Bush family. You see the end result, what a person achieves at the end tells you whether they took time to develop into that leadership or it was something in a rush because we've seen it and we think we can do it.
But you mentioned strategies. Does that mean you can rush it and strategize and still make it?
And again, it may differ from person to person, our ability to learn quickly and to practice what we learn quickly. But yes, its strategies are set down, plans that can be followed. Therefore, it is possible. It is possible. But again, I believe in that systematic approach.
So there are people with leadership skills. Again, I take it from innate.
Yeah.
Who never lived to see them materialize. Who never lived to see that become practical for all to see. Is that? Yes.
If you take example of Martin Luther King Jr., I mean my mentor, if you like, my role model, Martin Luther King Jr. I mean, he fought for the civil rights movement in America, but he never lived to see the black man voting today. Okay, so there are times that great people fight for things. I mean, change itself is very difficult. Sometimes the leaders who drive the change does not live to see the change that they're driving. I mean, Nkrumah, for instance, I mean, today the talk and the passion to bring AU, African Union, together is stronger, and understanding is evolving with us as a people more than when Nkrumah started the movement. He was seen as somebody, I mean, to some section who wanted to take over everything into his arms. But today we understood him. So he never lived to see exactly what he wanted Africa to be. So that is there. That is there.
It is his day, and we want to, talk about his good works and all that. And yet some people have said he was autocratic. That's what I mean. Some have said, but in some cases it works. We're saying that off air.
Yes, we've Mr. Van der Palen, we've spoke about the leadership theories, and let me say that there's no single leadership theory that one can pick that works in its entirety. So that a good leader is one who has a combination of different traits, leadership traits, different theories. That's it. So that at a point it depends on the situational analysis. Okay, and you can pick it from here. For instance, you have the shepherdic leadership, and then you have the mosaic leadership. The shepherdic leadership, if you like, is like the shepherd, the one who leads from behind. So he's leading from behind like the shepherd, and when he sees the flock falling aside, he tries to bring them into line so that he can get them into that green pastures, that land where they are to feed, and then to retain them. And then the mosaic leadership is the one that leads from the front. Leading from the front means that you don't see your back. Okay, so that if you are leading from the front and you are not seeing your back, it means that it is those who are the back who would tell you. Okay, and when you are leading from the back, like the shepherdic leadership, it's a combination of the autocratic, because the sheep may be wanting to run into the street when the car is coming. You have to bring it back onto focus. You get it. So it's a combination of different traits that make a good leader. So at one point, a leader definitely had to be autocratic, especially if he carries that huge vision and nobody seems to see what he sees. And he knows that when this is followed, it leads us to where we ought to get to as a people. He has to be autocratic in order to get it done. Okay. And also, there are times that he will negotiate. He will negotiate. He will negotiate where he brings other views on board. So yes, they can say it's autocratic, but it worked for us. Because the end result of what Nkrumah did, the motorway is there for us to see today. The Temabo is there for us to see today. The great schools he established are there for us to see today. To say that assessing our balance sheet, you can clearly see that his autocratic leadership style at certain points worked for our good. So I support it at certain points.
Okay, so now let's look at how it can help us as a nation. In this case, Ghana. We are celebrating Founders Day. It shouldn't be just a celebration of a holiday and then off we go. We must see substance. You must see how this becomes a blessing, what the lessons are in there, how applicable it is, and all of that. So, Ghanaian leadership styles.
Let's again, talking about Nkrumah, let's take the back to Nkrumah again, since we're celebrating him. I mean, I believe, again, talking about the nature attributes of being a good leader. If you look at the educational background of Nkrumah started with theology. You see, there is always something in religion that propels leadership to where it ought to be. And anytime a leadership loses focus of that religious linkage to that leadership, it goes wayward. Look at Nkrumah, for example, as we say. Nkrumah started as a theologian. And that brings us to say that in our modern day Ghana, religious leadership becomes important for national development. What does the religious leader propel? Taking it from Nkrumah and what he has done for us to see today. He started as a theologian. Look at Martin Luther King. Martin Luther King started as a theologian. In fact, all his educational qualifications are in theology, which is from first degree right to doctorate degree. So see what Martin Luther King did in America with the non-violent, the civil rights movement in America. Look at Desmond Tutu, another fantastic person, even though he's been surrounded with a few, if you like, controversies in recent times in South Africa for some statements he has made, but he's a fantastic person. When South Africa has moved out of apartheid and Mandela has become the first president of South Africa, elected president of South Africa, they set up the Truth and Reconciliation Committee to look into various atrocities during the apartheid era. And Desmond Tutu was one of the leaders of it. It says, let it go. Could you imagine that if that person has decided in a way to say that, yes, they did us wrong, let us pay them back to it. You see, and this is also a fine theologian. So there's something, religion, that connects to leadership, which we must not lose focus of. Again, looking at political leadership, again, going forward into Ghana and the development, how leadership can help our development. Political leadership is there, and we must learn to separate political leadership from governance. Political leadership may give you all the enthusiasm to bring your party into power, but when you get into governance, moving the country into a development is a different shift from there. And talking about governance, you then have to talk about the three arms of government and ask, how is leadership in these three arms of government leading us into achieving the goals of the country? Okay, and then and a lot has been said about that. I mean, the executive, the judiciary, and then the legislature. How does parliament provide leadership for the development of the country? How does the judiciary provide leadership for the development of the country? And we've seen in recent time that announced videotape and all those things that happen. I mean, we have to do something as a country. We have to rise beyond the status quo, because again, if you look at our situation where we are now as a country and where we ought to be, comparing to the Malaysians, the Singapores who Nkrumah started with at the time, where they've gotten to and where we are now, it tells you that we have to speed up. We have to speed up, and we need that decisive leadership, a leadership that is able to bring that people like Nkrumah got it. I mean, Nkrumah had overwhelming majority. I mean, somebody from the western region coming to contest an election in Jamestown, my own place, and winning the hearts of the people, tells you how he's able to sell his vision, to make himself good, to make himself amiable to the people to buy into it. So I think that we as a country, yes, we are doing well. We can speed up that process if decisive leadership is really put into real focus.
Okay. So decisive leadership.
Yeah.
That's what you think is needed. And also you've said that religion is really important.
Very important. Very important.
To leadership, because it acts as perhaps a catalyst in putting ideas together, spinning them up, and also shaping things the way they must be. All right. I think we've learned quite a lot this morning, and we're grateful for your time. That's all time will permit us to do. We just have 3 more minutes to go, and we have to wrap up here. Ni Ama Adi, we appreciate your time this morning. Ni Ama Adi is a lecturer at Academic City College and founder Institute of Leadership and Management in Education, and also a columnist in the Business and Financial Times. We're grateful. We wish you a happy holiday and a happy Founders Day.
Thank you very much, Mr. Van der Palen. I'm most grateful for the opportunity. Thank you so much.